Hey folks, how's it going? I'm going to comment here a little bit on the cover letters for the week, what I'm seeing in each of your cover letters, and what kind of adjustments I think you need to be making to get to a good final draft for both your cover letters and your resumes. I'm reading through them now, so I'm sort of taking notes to myself, and I'm also putting up grades, so you'll see grades on these first drafts, if not this afternoon, then early tomorrow morning. And keep an eye on those, and also make sure you read through those comments carefully because I'm trying to make specific comments that I think will help each of you with your cover letters and in many ways also with your resumes. So the first aspect of this sort of revision process for the cover letters that I want to talk about is to ask you to go to the week 3 folder in Blackboard and take a look at the cover letter example I have on there. So I like to use an example from the University of Virginia website that has all kinds of cover letter examples for any variety of field you're interested in. And many of you are sort of following or pursuing degrees in technical fields, so this is right up your alley, the kinds of examples you'll find there. But the one I've posted on the Blackboard Week 3 folder is a very good example of a cover letter that I think is doing its job very well, and I think it's sort of showing you exactly what the format of a cover letter should look like. And so feel free to lean on that example. I actually would encourage you to do that because I think that it'll give you something not only to look at, but something to work with while you're drafting and revising your own cover letters. So, to begin with, of course, the format of the cover letter is very important. And it's really one of the first things you'll notice about a cover letter as a reader of it. If you're ever on a hiring committee or if you're ever looking to hire somebody, you're definitely going to look at a cover letter and notice right away what it looks like. So, always step back from the cover letter you've written and ask yourself, what does mine look like? If it looks really nice, excellent. And by nice, I mean it's clearly presented, it has identifiable aspects and parts. You want to make sure that you put your name at the top of the cover letter along with your contact information, including your phone number and your email address, and preferably your local address as well, so that people in the hiring committee know where you're from and if you're actually a local individual applying or if you have to move to actually take this job. Then you want to include the name and the address of the company you're applying for, as well as the person who you believe will be hiring you or interviewing you at the very least. If you don't know their names and you can't find it anywhere, acceptable alternatives are something like Dear Hiring Committee, um, Dear members of the hiring board, please try to stay clear of to whom it may concern. I think that is a very strange way to begin a cover letter because you're trying to be personable and you're trying to appeal to these readers in a very personal and professional way. And to whom it may concern sounds like you're writing to the, I don't know, your state senator or something like that, something weird. But try your best to stick to the sort of common devices of that format, particularly when you're introducing yourself. Then typically you'll see 3 or 4 paragraphs for a cover letter. If you're looking at your own and you find that it's one big paragraph, then you know you'll have to cut that down a little bit, or at least work on adjusting some of the structure so that it reads more like not a segmented letter, but a letter that has parts. And that's true of the cover letter, is that it's a letter that has parts. So not only is it the introduction, where you say to your potential employer, I'm writing this resume, I'm writing this cover letter to submit my application for the job that you've posted wherever. And generally, it is common practice to tell the readers in your cover letter where you found their job, whether if it was on Indeed or if it was on their direct website or if it was one of the sources we've seen, Jobs in Maine, the Maine.gov, these sources. Let them know where you found it so they know that you're a serious applicant. Then you just want to briefly say in that first paragraph why you think that you're specifically the best fit for this job. And it has to be very brief, no more than 2 sentences, certainly. And you will take more time later on in the body of the cover letter to really elaborate on these aspects. But say very quickly and very to the point why you think you are the best candidate. Because essentially what they're looking for is someone who's going to be a very solid fit for this position. Okay? So, in that second paragraph, my advice is always to begin talking about your experiences, whether they're work experiences, academic experiences, professional experiences, volunteer experiences, anything that you have done that is relevant to this job. And you may ask yourself, well, I don't really have anything that's relevant to this position I'm applying for. And I'll say, okay, pause. The first thing you want to do is really take stock of what experiences you do have. And if they are work experiences, excellent. Then you have something to work with right away. But if you are finding yourself struggling to identify specific experiences or a background in a specific field, and you're like, I really don't have it, I don't know what to say here, simply spend time thinking about what you have done and how that applies to the job you are applying for. For example, let's say you have worked in a grocery store or a hardware store. I've done both. I worked in a grocery store for 5 years and a hardware store for 4. And I had a bunch of experience that really wasn't applicable to graduate school or teaching or the nonprofit world where I ended up. But I was very good at selling the experiences I did have. So I had excellent customer service. I was very organized and detail oriented. I was a very hard worker and I knew what was going on all the time. I had leadership skills, and these are just a sort of like a very common set of examples that you can rely on, you can lean on from your own background to begin talking about how you will be a strong candidate for the job you're applying for. So feel free to do that. Absolutely. Take a few minutes and write down some of the aspects of your previous job experience or work experience, even if you have very little. Just take some time and reflect on them, and then use that as a way to guide yourself through the writing process for this cover letter. So back to the cover letter. In this second paragraph, lean on your experiences. Tell the company, organization, or person what makes you the best fit in terms of your actual background. And you can also speak to your character as well. So I often say that I'm a hard worker, that I have a hard work ethic, or a strong work ethic, and that I'm diligent, and that I, do the job right the first time. And so I think that this is an opportunity for you to speak about your character as a person. So don't forget to include that in your cover letter, because it's not just about the hard experiences, the technical experiences you have. It's also about what we call soft skills: communication, organization, diligence, right? Commitment to the job itself. So if you feel that you are these things, or if you feel that you have these qualities, then put them in the resume. And speaking of that, one very important detail you should always keep in mind for your cover letter, and I'm sorry, I said resume, for your cover letter, is that you should always be honest. And so if you are writing a cover letter and you're finding yourself saying things that are like, well, they sound like they should be in a cover letter, but it's not really true for me, then do not put them, okay? Because very often the people who are reading your cover letters can tell, right? They know right away if you're lying to them. So don't lie to them. And if you do get a job that you applied for using fake skills or whatever, or, if you exaggerated, then you might not like that job, or you might be not prepared for that job. So always stay honest. Be as genuine as you can in these cover letters, because they are in many ways representative of the kind of employee that you will be. So, with that in mind, you wrap up that second paragraph by thinking about your experience at large, your background in whatever you have background in, and why and how that relates to the job you're applying for. And it doesn't matter what job you're applying for. If you have the experience, then you can make it relevant to the job you're applying for. So it's task and it's difficult, but it's part of this cover letter process. So then you get to this third paragraph, and you're like, oh, I feel like I've written it all. I don't know what else to add. So this is what I always recommend for this third paragraph. So I think that the best aspect of a cover letter is a serious and specific example of a project or a work experience or a life experience that you have had that can illuminate for the reader, the hiring committee, the hiring manager, what kind of person you will be for their organization. So this may be any number of things. My example might be, I have experience working on a specific fundraising project, and I might use that fundraising project to talk about how I'm a good project manager, or I'm a strong leader, and that I have a great sense of direction and vision for any number of projects. And so that might be my specific example that I lean on a little bit in this final paragraph to really sell myself as the best candidate for this job. Of course, it depends on what kind of job it is. But be thinking for yourself, though, how are you going to take advantage of a specific project or example that you have done or had, and use that as a way to sort of really get across your point that you are the best absolute candidate for this position. And that doesn't come naturally. So be thinking about that for your final draft. And I'll often comment on that in your first draft as well, so keep an eye on that. Then, of course, you round out your your cover letter by saying something very common like, thank you for your careful consideration. I look forward to hearing from you. Please reach out to me with any questions or concerns. And then, you can reiterate your phone number if you prefer to be reached by phone, or you can put your email again. It doesn't really matter. They already have that, frankly. Then, of course, say sincerely or truly and put your name, type your name first, and then sign it. Always sign your name on your cover letter. It makes a huge difference. Seriously, it makes a huge difference, because it gives a little piece of your actual character stuck to this application, right? And in many ways, that's the only part of you other than your cover letter or resume that they're going to see. And so if you do sign it and other people do not sign it who have submitted their applications, even if they're really qualified applicants, if they come off as sloppy or apathetic, and you do not, you may very well get an interview. Okay? And ultimately, that's the goal, right? With the cover letter and the resume is to get to the interview process. So, as you're thinking about your cover letters and resumes, and I've said this once, I think, in the cover letter studio, think of them as the documents or objects that get you the interview, right? And keep your application out of the garbage because essentially that's what you're trying to do, okay? So, of course, reach out to me with any questions or comments on your cover letters as you continue to draft them. And make sure to check out the week 4 checklist as you're working on your cover letters because we are sort of wrapping up this part of the work, and we're going to be moving on to a different assignment soon. Looking forward to reading the final versions of your resumes and cover letters. I'll talk with you folks soon. Okay, bye.